Welcome to the Finding the Magic podcast, where books come alive. I'm Tricia Copeland, a fiction author and host of this show. If you love books, finding great reads, and hearing about the story behind the story directly from the authors, this is the place for you. Whether you like fantasy, science fiction, dystopian, or romance titles, I think you'll find something to love in my playlist. Listen in to discover something magical about a book or two today.
Welcome, Jason.
Hi, nice to be here.
I'm excited to have Jason Kristopher here with me today. He is the author. He's got some new stuff coming out, but is it your first series that is about zombies, which I love. So I can't wait to dig in and find out. The first book is End. Do you want to start there and then you can tell us about the next two?
Sure. The first book is weirdly named is End. I will say that surprisingly, it's actually the titles are End, Interval, and then Beginning for the third one because I intentionally wanted to confuse my readers. Not really, but I visited the Arizona Memorial in Honolulu, and what's interesting about that in Pearl Harbor is that the memorial it's shorter in the middle, and then it gets taller as you go out. And there's a lot involved in that design, but one of the things that the designer said, the reason that he did that was to show initial defeat, but eventual victory. And so that's kind of what I mirrored this series with. Initially, it's called End because the world ends, and then you have the interval before the beginning of the world after. So End is the story of a bookseller named David Blake who gets how should I put this? Conscripted is a good word into a super secret military unit as a civilian that's been fighting zombies for 130 years, give or take, since 1873, and tries to stop the end of the world. Little bit of a spoiler, he fails, so that's why there's a second book.
There you go. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Then you have the second book is basically the 20 years that they survive or they try to survive the apocalypse, and then the third book is what happens after. And the core theme of my zombie series is, surprisingly for a zombie series, is actually hope, because it's that whole idea that no matter how bad it gets, and it gets pretty bad in a zombie apocalypse, humans as humans can always come back from that somehow. So that's one of the things that I want readers to get from it is a sense of, yeah, it's bad, but it can get better.
Yeah, that's interesting how you kind of set up the three books, because usually in a dystopian, this sounds very dystopian, correct me if I'm wrong, usually in a dystopian series, the bad thing has already happened and the people are like picking up the pieces. But in your first book, you show like the bad thing happening. Like,
Right. I've actually had that in a lot of reviews. People have said, not that I really read reviews anymore, but a lot of people have said in the past that what's really interesting about my first book is that it actually shows the apocalypse happening, which you don't see a lot. You see it in some. My friend Jonathan Mayberry did an excellent series of books called the Dead of Night series, which are fantastic zombie books. And because he's just too prolific and very annoying in that way. He's actually a really great guy. He's one of my favorite people on earth. But he's tied it into all his insanely popular Joe Ledger books too. So, it's point is he's one of the few people that actually shows the end of the world as it happens. And I felt like there were so many post-apocalyptic books where it's literally post-apocalyptic, like this happened a year ago or 10 years ago or 50 years ago, 100 years ago, whatever. And he did that too with his Rotten Ruin books. But I wanted to tell the story of what happened as it happened and how people tried to fight, even if they ultimately failed.
right. Yeah. So, and do you mind telling us the backstory of these zombies and how like they've been fighting them for over 100 years and nobody knew
No,
about them, I'm assuming,
no,
or the general public doesn't?
I think I haven't looked at it in a while, but I think if you read the sample on Amazon, I think that you can get technically the first chapter is all backstory. It's little
Okay.
vignettes about how we got to where we are. and it's essentially the U.S. government the zombies came to the attention of the U.S. government in 1873 in Washington, what was at the time called Washington Territory, when they found these people had been attacked, and then it kind of went from there. And these guys, President Grant was like, "Hey, you know a lot about this. Let's clearly this is something we're probably going to have to deal with again. So we're going to start this new division, Unit 73." And then that came under the auspices of Aegis, and then DARPA. Well, DARPA. I'm not sure if you're familiar with DARPA.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then eventually Aegis. It was OSS, and then DARPA, and then Aegis, which is created to combat the zombies. And one thing I do see a lot of in post-apocalyptic fiction, dystopian fiction, is a lot of what we call in the sci-fi industry hand waving. Right? You just believe this is how it works, and just
This is what happened. That's not real sci-fi, though.
Right, right. And that's why I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have at least some sort of realistic basis for it. And so I'd never really talk about where the core inciting incident of the zombies comes from, because frankly, I haven't figured that out, and haven't really wanted to, because writing 350,000 word books back to back to back, I'm done with zombies for the moment. But they're created through prions. And if you don't, I don't want to, tell you what you already know, but a prion is a protein in all of us. There's a whole mess of them, and a misfolded protein is called, in this particular case, is called a prion, and this particular one is what causes the zombies to be the way they are. In a twist of prescience, I guess, a little bit from one of the best zombie stories ever, The Last of Us. If you've played that game or watched that TV show, I was also inspired by the zombie ants in South America that are created through the use of the actual real. This is a real thing, cordyceps fungus, that fortunately can't live in humans, but a couple of degrees body temperature higher, and we would have The Last of Us. So anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent, but these zombies are more of a biologically real zombie. So
like genetic anomaly almost.
yeah. I mean, it just, one of the things that I really like to do is be, well, that doesn't exist, but it might,
And it could,
sort of a
right?
thing. Yeah. So that's that, just like a slight little twist, the multiverse theory. We're in a slightly different, reality, and in some ways the worst timeline, but yeah.
Well, it's funny because it seems like just a few recordings ago, I was talking to another author who was using these prions too for what, and I can't remember, it wasn't zombies, but it was something that was wrong with this group of humans who like weren't, and I
Yeah, they
don't remember
were.
what it was. So anyway,
It was a big thing in the literature back in when I started writing this story in early 2000, well, late 2000s, so late aughts, I guess. So around 2008 to 2011, give or take, prions were big in the news, and I did a little bit of research and said, that could work. And I talked to a space medicine friend of mine who works for NASA, and he was like, yeah, right, I mean, I could see where that would happen, potentially. So yeah, that's a reliable scientific basis for it. So
yeah, so I mean, I watched a lot of the zombie movies. One of my friends has a book called I, Zombie, and
hmm
that actually preceded, and that's a YA book
Yeah,
set in
Hugh Howey. Yeah,
Mississippi. No, Joe Michaels, actually. So
Joe
I don't I
Michaels.
mean, maybe they have
Huh.
same titles. You can do titles, but then like the
Yeah. No.
show on CW came out, I, Zombie, which
Right.
had how many seasons? Like 6 or something seasons. I love that
So
show.
many. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
so
must have been something else I was thinking of. I know Hugh as well, and I was thinking of something. I don't know. He said some zombie book, but I'm glad you corrected me on that. There's
oh
so
no,
much
well the
zombie
one, I
fiction
mean,
out there.
he may have his book named the same thing too, so you can have the same title of the same book, but hers
Right.
was
Yeah.
published, I don't know, over 10 years ago maybe. So
True.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the one I was looking at, but yeah, it's interesting that I think zombies have survived when like other dystopian things, like I wrote a book about a flu pandemic, right the year before the year before the pandemic, and then the second book came out like spring of 2020, and not surprisingly, it has not done that well. But
Yeah.
zombies are still doing well.
Yeah,
So
that's unfortunate timing. It really is. There are so many examples of stuff like that that's happened, and I mean, who could have predicted? Well, I mean, biologists, I suppose, but
somebody
yeah.
said it's coming, right?
Well, the thing I really like about zombies, and the thing, so to speak, and I love the fact that the zombies are surviving, as you said. The thing that I think really makes their longevity uh, happen is that they really hold up a mirror to society if you use them as a storytelling device. And forgive me for this slight tangent as well, but in the same way that Star Trek, as a sci-fi show, allows us to talk about society now in a sort of a past tense, or we can project like, well, of course, this is the way society should be, and this is the way it was, 4 or 5 or 700 years ago, which would be our time. So it allows you to talk about society now in a framework that keeps people from having to go, oh my God, you can't talk about society. Similarly, you can talk about zombies. They can be any sort of boogeyman that you want them to be, and you can use them to tell stories too. And that's one of the reasons I think there's so many different types of zombies and so many different zombie stories, is that there's so many ways to go if you view them as a storytelling device and not just a simple creature.
Right. So in your book, is the government like protecting them too, as well as
Oh
sort of
no. Well,
No.
there's a spoiler that I don't want to give you
Okay.
for the story, but generally speaking, the government wants to either control them or find a way to cure it. That's the primary goal, is to contain. It's twofold. It's to contain the zombies when they can, and to find a cure so that they don't have to continue containing them. Um, and it's just like you think. It doesn't work, and finally they have to come up with an alternate solution, which is a spoiler that I don't want to give away just yet. But yeah,
So
and
David,
and then
go ahead. Yeah.
sorry, I was just going to say the third book. It's interesting. I was talking to that same friend of mine who's a space medicine scientist, and I had tried to come up in the third book with a cure for zombieism, and I did, but he read it and he was like, "That is truly awful." If I was given the choice between taking this therapy, this gene therapy, or staying human and being susceptible to bites, I would take the susceptible to bites. I mean, this is awful. So dial it back some, and I ended up doing that. It was a consequence of the gene therapy was that, and I don't remember the medical term for it, but there's a certain type of mutation that is very, very, very rare, where when a baby is born, all of the organs are switched, and it's really a kind of a horrible life, and then they generally have a much shorter lifespan. And he said, "No, just
You
that's
can't
too
do that to
bad.
babies.
Bring it back, bring it back." And I was like, "Okay, all right, cool." And so we found a way to do it, but yeah.
Neat. Well, it sounds like your main character, David Blake, he's a bookseller, so he has
Mhm.
sort of a double life. Does his double life fall apart when all of this comes to light?
Yeah, he's just living his life with his fiance and her son, and then the zombie apocalypse happens, and well, not the whole apocalypse because it's a gradual sort of thing, but the first major attack in the United States happens in Fall Creek, Colorado, which is actually modeled off of Georgetown, Colorado. I destroyed a lot of cities in my books, and Georgetown was the first, technically. 1,500 people died. He was one of the only people to survive. And so they're like, well, you survived. Everybody else died. You know something they didn't know. So let's bring you in as a consultant and
Okay.
help train our people to survive. And so he was just a normal guy. And then he, like so many books, unfortunately, going back, I would probably edit the story quite a bit, but he's just a normal guy who figures out a way to survive and uses that to help train the soldiers.
Okay, so he wasn't in this unit, the zombie protection unit
No,
before he
no.
just gets conscripted, like you said, too.
Right.
So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And to be honest, there wasn't really the soldiers who fought these battles. There wasn't a specific group of them at that time because
okay.
they had done well enough in the past so that the attacks were sporadic and they didn't really need like a whole division of the army or anything. So, but it's gotten worse and it's going to get worse, and so now they're really ratcheting up the training and the new units and stuff. So
Yeah, I was reading the description of the first book and it says there seems to be like another enemy here too. Can you speak to that a little bit?
well, it's not really a spoiler. Being a zombie fan as you are, like for example, the Walking Dead, one of the arguably one of the best zombie stories told. Now, the TV show, it okay. We could talk about that all day, but the point I wanted to make was that if you've read the books or seen the show, you know that the title, The Walking Dead, doesn't refer to the zombies. It refers to the humans in that story who are literally walking dead without realizing it. And so that's what I kind of wanted to show in this. It's not about the zombies. It's not about the end of the world necessarily. It could have been anything, the end of the world. It could have been zombies, it could have been ants, it could have been earthquakes. It's more about the people, both good and bad. And in my stories, it's never the zombies that are the really bad things. I mean, obviously they're just a constant threat, but the true enemy is almost always humans, in those scenes. I
Right.
mean, you look at The Walking Dead again, it's zombies, right? It's what the humans that have survived do with those zombies, where, that's the really bad part.
Well, and to each other. And who do you become
Sure.
when you're faced with something cataclysmic like that, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
and I
exactly.
mean, yeah, so they weren't just fighting the zombies at some points, I believe.
Right, right, exactly. And there's always, because it's the US government, there's always stuff going on behind the scenes, and there's so many layers of bureaucracy. And when one of the bad guys in it is very much modeled on a character in a video game that I played, completely aside from zombies, called Half-Life. It was just it's funny how you, as an author, you pick up things from other places and they inspire different characters and stuff. But yeah, it's definitely not the zombies that are the bad guys in these books.
So this series is complete. Is the name of the series
Mhm.
Zombie too?
No, the name of the series is The Dying of the Light.
The Dying of
And
the
it's,
Light.
yeah,
Ooh, I like.
yeah, it's from the poem by uh, I can't think of his name. But he's, if you just Google it, you can come up with it. As a matter of fact, I want to find out now because it's really bothering me. So let me just Google that real quick.
My brain
Um,
is exactly the same way. People
yeah,
ask me what my
it's
favorite song is. I'm like, it's Firefly by, I don't remember the name.
Dylan Thomas. Yeah, the actual poem is called "Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night" by Dylan Thomas. And so, Rage Against the Dying of the Light. And so that's why I called the series "The Dying of the Light."
The Dying of the Light. And complete series is, do
Hmm.
we get a
Hmm.
happily ever after, or this is not really a happily ever
Well, I
after?
mean, I try to give it some hope. So, unlike a lot of dystopian and post-apocalyptic fiction, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it is not, in fact, a train. So,
That's good.
so it's hopeful at the end, I think, and I think my readers would agree, given the reviews. But yeah, there's also a fourth book, which isn't a follow-on. It's a short story collection, stories told in that universe. Think of them as the deleted scenes from the book, so to speak. So, and that's called The
Oh,
Walker Chronicles: Tales from the Dying of the Light. So,
oh, neat. That's fun. Yeah, because I mean, when readers love a series, they're like want to consume anything else that you put out in that series, right?
yeah, and that's the beauty of that, is that occasionally I thought it was done with zombie stories, but in the last 6 months or so, I've actually written two additional short stories set in that world. two Walker Chronicles. One of them has been folded into the book now, so there's now 5 in that collection if you download it from Amazon. The 6th one I wrote is actually being published separately for the next 6 months. In February, it's being published in an anthology from Wordfire Press called Requiem: Tales for the Undead. It's called
So
Sonata.
all zombie
Yeah,
stories.
yeah. Well, undead stories,
Undead,
so it could
okay.
be anything. But they also
Vampires,
have,
okay, yes.
yeah, and they also have to have a musical component. So this story is about a classically trained Juilliard piano instructor who makes it to a deserted, abandoned luxury hotel in Montana, and finds herself again. It's called Sonata in Z minor, so which is one of my favorite titles of something I've written. So it's really
neat.
cool.
Fun.
Yeah,
Well, I hear you have some new things on the horizon.
I do. I have 4 different projects in the works. The one I most recently put in a drawer, so to speak, was it's called When Iron Wakes. It's a sci fantasy novel, boy meets griffin meets robot adventure on a topologically unique world. I've been writing it for 7 years, and it's been killing me writing this. It's been the albatross around my writing neck. So I got it done. I sent it to the editor. I got the editor feedback. The book was 400 pages and the editor's feedback was 167. So it's gonna sit in a digital drawer for a little while I let that marinate. Uh, I also have finished and I'm currently revising and finishing up Loco Moco, which is a 1948 supper club thriller. It's a 1948 noir detective mystery novel set on Oahu, which is because I want to write it correctly. I want to feature and celebrate Hawaiian culture, not tell a story that I think as a non-native should be told. It's taking a lot of work, but it's good work because I want people who are from Hawaii or who know the history of Hawaii to say, wow, he did this right. Not, here's another Howley who got it wrong, so I've got those 2. Those I'm really excited about. I've got another short story coming out next month called Wild Sky Dancers in a new anthology about griffins called Talons and Tails from Opal Kingdom Press. This is a prequel story to When Iron Wakes, the massive fantasy novel. So that got me excited about it again. I have a supernatural thriller mystery called Watchers in the Dark. The series is called Watchers in the Dark, and the first in that series is called Under a Cloud Covered Moon. Features a Lloyd Monroe who's very much like House, but he investigates metahuman problems. House MD, I should say.
Right. Yeah. No, I love that show.
Yeah. Somebody. So he's somebody you really can't stand, and you would hate to know him in person, but you just can't kind of look away.
You can't look away. Yeah, you gravitate towards it for whatever reason. Yes.
Yeah. The one that I'm most excited about, probably that's going to take forever, is the fantasy mega series that I want to write. Currently planned at a total of 30 books. Yeah, that's everybody's reaction. Writers I know are like,
you have that many planned. That is some good planning.
Yeah. There's a core series of 6 books. I don't want to scare anybody. It's a core series of 6 books. You read those 6 books and you'll be fine, but there's 24 other books to give you more details. Call it like Game of Thrones, but you get all of the other stuff too. And not as not as thick. You're not going to kill anybody with these books unless you really try hard. So that's going to be my magnum opus. I want to get those written before I die. I actually have enough story ideas, assuming I don't come up with any others, which is unlikely, to keep writing 4 books a year till I'm 93. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, content is not the issue. It's the creating it that's the issue.
I think most authors are that way, though. They have all these little idea files. So
yeah, that's true. I actually use Obsidian. My partner Jen is an incredibly detail oriented person, and so she's taken up this note-taking style called Zettelkasten, which I'd never heard of, but it's a really interesting idea, way to sort of catalog your ideas and spark new ones. And so she suggested Obsidian, which is what she uses for part of that. And it's really, really super helpful. It's a free app that you can download in it, and it really connects all your ideas and helps spark things and connections. And for me, with that mega series, it helps to sort of keep the story straight, because it's also 600 years of
Oh, wow.
history in that series. So
Yeah, I've talked to other authors who use like Excel files and different pages and, to catalog, to keep all the years straight, all, the timeline and all the different characters and the scenes and what happened
yeah.
in what book. And so do you outline heavily before you start anything?
Well, I did that with book 3 with beginning. And I discovered if I outline too heavily, then I get bored. And because I know the story, right? And that's one of the reasons it took 3 years to come out with the third book, is because I had outlined it to the nth degree, and then I just didn't want to write it because I already knew the story. So now I just do a high level, 5 or 6 bullet points per chapter, but I do outline on a chapter by chapter basis. That way, I don't run into the problem that I had when I was writing book 1, where I had to put it in a drawer for 8 months or 9 months because I didn't know where to go with it. So
Yeah.
the muddy middle, or the messy middle, as we call it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I get bored too if I over outline. So I only have like 8 plot points. I know the beginning, the end, and like a few in the middle, and then I write from there. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, whatever works for you. I
yeah,
guess all the
definitely.
best writing advice I can give is to just write what in a way that works for you. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel the same way. Just keep writing and doing it. So,
Well, there's a movie called Finding Forrester with Sean Connery, and in that he said the most important thing to do in writing is to write. So but you hear that, I'm sure you've heard it hundreds and hundreds of times, is everybody says write every day, and I think that's great advice, but I think it's also incomplete, because writing every day, in terms of putting 1,000 or 2,000 words down every day, or whatever your word count number is unrealistic for adults. So not everybody's going to be able to do that. So I like to think of it as write every day, but remember what writing actually is. And that's, you're at the grocery store and you're thinking through your plot points while you're picking out groceries, or you're walking the dog and you've got that going in your head, or you're watching TV that inspires you, or you're just, sitting back in your chair staring at the ceiling. That's all writing. So write every day, but remember what writing is. Yeah.
right. Yeah. No, I do the same thing. Like I'm driving my car, I'm thinking about the last scene, what comes next. If I got,
I don't know if I'd recommend doing it while you're driving, but I know a couple people who dictate audiobooks while they're driving, and I'm just like, "Oh, no." But then again, my friend Kevin Anderson, he's the one who writes Dune with Brian Herbert, and a bunch of others, just ran a massively successful Kickstarter for his Terra Incognita fantasy series. He writes books by dictating as he hikes up mountains, and he's the second most prolific person I know in terms of writing. I was like, I would get winded walking across the house, just trying to dictate. And he said he had a transcriptionist, and now he uses a service to do it. But I was thinking, that transcriptionist, I wouldn't want to be them either, because it's just, I don't try to curse, but if I'm hiking up a mountain, every other word is going to be a curse word. You're never going to get the story from me, because I'm just going to be dying on the trail.
We have to find your zen, right?
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I just recently went back, and because I'm also in school, I finally went back to school to get my degree. And, I have my partner, and then I own a publishing company, and I own a layout company, and I've got all these responsibilities, but they're kind of encroaching on my writing. So I just went and rescheduled my whole life so that I can actually make sure that I have some writing time. And again, whatever writing that turns out to be. But yeah.
Well, great. We will be excited for all those new projects to come, and definitely following this 30 book series.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, check me out on, I'm on Facebook, but I'm not on Facebook. The best way to get a hold of me is jasonkristopher.com. That's Jason Kristopher with a K.com. And I have a Patreon and a monthly newsletter, which is actually fairly interesting and really only monthly, not semi-monthly or, so that's the best way to keep up with me. I'm also active on Blue Sky. So
Awesome. That was going to be my next question, where we could find you. So thank you very much, Jason. And we will
Sure.
have you back when you write your next book.
I'd love to. Been a lot of fun.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Finding the Magic podcast. I'm your host, author and podcaster Tricia Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep finding the magic.